I was left for dead. That's how my journey in entrepreneurship started. I left the corporate world and my finance and MBA degrees behind me to share my story. Welcome to That Entrepreneur Show, where resilience meets hustle. Let's build and learn from our guest now.
One of the great things about the United States in particular is that almost every community has some group or several groups that are dedicated to the idea of entrepreneurship, networking, meeting each other. There's no substitute for shaking hands in my experience.
Today, we are honored to have Alex on the show as a U.S. Marines veteran turned successful entrepreneur and investor. Alex brings a unique perspective to the world of business. We'll be exploring his vision for ethical capitalism, how he's breaking down barriers for underrepresented founders, and the powerful impact of investing in diverse talent. Get ready for an inspiring and thought-provoking conversation. Alex, thank you for joining us from across the country today out in California.
Thank you very much for the invitation, Vincent. I'm honored to be here.
Honor is mine. I'm looking forward to learning a lot about your story. Everyone, he will continue to inspire you to reach for the stars. If it's your first time with us, welcome. If you're a continuing listener, welcome. This is That Entrepreneur Show. I have to start by thanking you so much for tuning in each week since December 2019, making this now a top 2.5% global show. We have another incredible testimonial headed your way to help add to that. As the co-founder and executive director of Evolution Ventures and the lead general partner over at MinervaFund, he focuses on investing in women and entrepreneurs of color, groups often overlooked by traditional investors. Now, Alex, I'm going to have to ask, because I like to start this show in the first segment, what led you to entrepreneurship, but what led you to this space specifically?
Yeah, that's a great question. And congratulations on the longevity of your show. That's really the key, right? What you're doing, just grinding it out every day. That's fantastic. I ended up in entrepreneurship accidentally. I was born into it. My family are immigrants, and my folks and their folks worked hard at everything that they could put their hand to. And they made it possible for, me and my sister and the extended family. I have many, many cousins. We all went much further than our parents. And that's because our parents worked so hard and provided such a good example. So my father in particular developed his first patented product in the 1980s while he was working for the phone company. And when they invited him to form a corporation, which was something that was brand new to my family, we knew nothing about any of these things. My father created a business and sold his first product to his former employer from whom he'd retired. And we kids helped bag that product at the kitchen table and put labels on it and figure out how to ship it and all that stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's really in the DNA. I have a friend, Ernesto Ciroli, who starts every master class for entrepreneurs with the question, what's your entrepreneurial DNA? And in that class, every time, it's always somebody in your, that set an example for you. As far as venture capital goes, I stumbled into it by accident. I really didn't know anything about it. When I came home from the military in the mid-90s, I had an idea and I met a venture capitalist to talk about that idea, but I didn't really know how to execute on it. And I really didn't understand how venture capital worked or anything like that.
Sure.
As the 90s went on, I accepted a number of positions that led to responsibility over networks and networking and computer infrastructure and so forth. And I was miraculously, unbelievably, recruited into the biggest VC firm in the world at the height of the dot-com boom as their director of technology. And honestly, I got to tell you, Vincent, I didn't know who they were. I never heard their name before. There was no internet to look them up on. I didn't know who they were. It just sounded like a fun job.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I'm getting that here in the show notes. Couldn't Google, but it felt good. That's amazing. But did you
that investor actually invested in Google while I was there.
Were there any lessons learned around that topic from being a spectator to this?
Oh my gosh, so many lessons learned. You got to understand, first of all, that I was 27, I think, when I started that job. So I was, very young.
Right.
My principal skill was my ability to stand up straight and say, yes, sir, with a great deal of conviction. I could show up on time, be early. These were very valuable skills in the Valley, and I could fog a mirror. So, being able to do all those things landed me in that position. It was like hanging out with Olympic athletes all day. You can't help but learn, There's nothing you can do but learn in that environment.
Well, you are fully in that environment, absolutely crushing it. So I'd love to dive into something I teased in the beginning of the show, ethical capitalism. I'd love to talk in your perspective here, the full potential of it, what your vision for a world where the benefits of this ethical capitalism are actually realized and they create both financial success along with a great social impact.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for asking. This idea of ethical capitalism, first of all, I'm certainly not the inventor of it. I just happen to be drawn to it. It's something that I've been spending a number of years thinking about. And I think my journey to conversation about ethical capitalism, because it's always ongoing, really started with that experience in the Valley, because that experience in the Valley exposed me to the very pinnacle of individual wealth, the very pinnacle of, corporate success. And there were many, many laudable examples of people who were operating in ways that I think are really consistent with moving society forward and taking care of humanity. There were also a fair number of people who were operating in ways that I think were more self-interested. And that was a real turnoff for me. That's part of the reason my wife and I left the Valley when that experience was over. And we went away to have 5 kids. And I have 5 kids now. I wanted to do something that mattered. And it was after my children were out of diapers that my wife said I could go play again. And I went back. It's true, I went back and I played and, went back into software and formed my own company and got funded and all that kind of thing. And that was a, very good experience. And, what I've come to decide over the years, I'm in my 50s today. And what I think I have decided, and I reserve the right to change my mind, what I think I have decided is that capitalism is one of the very, very best ways that's ever been invented by man to improve man's condition, right? Or human's condition, right? I don't want to be gendered about it, like the human condition, right? Capitalism is a human invention. And as a human invention, it's just like any other human invention. It can be used for good. It can be used for evil. It can be used for positive. It can be used for negative. And so I think ethical capitalism then starts first and foremost with understanding that you, as the user of that tool, as the creator of that product, you have an obligation to move with intent, to try to make the world a better place and to try to improve your community through the use of this tool to the best of your ability, to the best of your understanding, to the degree that you know how. And so that's really what we've devoted much of evolution and most of the rest of my life, I imagine, to trying to share, is this vision of a world where people move with intention and use this powerful tool for the benefit of not just themselves, but the people around them.
A question that came to mind when we were on this discussion, now that you're on this side of the VC world and you talked about gaining funds as for your company, what is something you wish you knew then that you of course know now, and it's something you look in all potential deals for?
Yeah, that's a really good question. There's about 800 things I wish I knew. But the first thing that I wish I knew was that the patterns have already been laid out. It's not actually a mystery as far as how one goes about qualifying for or accessing early stage investment. Now, venture capital is a little bit more difficult than angel, right? Angel investing is characterized by the fact that you're investing your own money. Venture capital is characterized by the fact that you're managing other people's money. Okay. So an angel might write little checks, might write big checks, but they're always writing checks from their own checking account, and their motivations are usually very personal. Okay. And you can have super angels who write many, many checks in a year, but they're still usually operating from a pretty personal point of view because it's their money that's being put at risk. VCs are just like any other professional fund manager, hedge fund manager, mutual fund manager. We're making decisions using other people's money, and we're being compensated to make those decisions and to make those assessments. Well, most of the decisions that we're making fall into pretty recognizable patterns that are easily available and yield very readily to some Google searching on how to do things. Now, had I known that when I started, I could have saved a lot of time and I could have saved a lot of money. And that would probably be one big thing that I wish I knew as far as seeking investment is that I don't have to invent the wheel. Then as far as being an entrepreneur, because I made many, many mistakes along the way, all of my scars are real. Probably the biggest lesson that I learned as an entrepreneur, it's really, really important to understand your market and what you're bringing to your market and why your market cares about what you're bringing before you invest too much money into developing it or patenting it or turning it into a product. Can you get a cheaper kind of product market fit? I heard it recently called by one of my team members a content market fit. Can you get a content market fit before you get a product market fit? Because it's much, much cheaper. And if you have a content market fit, you're much more likely to have a successful product launch.
My show notes are looking real good for when this goes live. I like to type up a few little bullet points of some areas that we spoke about. Everyone, I hope you're enjoying today as much as I am. We're learning a lot from around the whole spectrum here. And before I dive into one of his other brands in his portfolio, it's very interesting to me, Dope Dog. I would like to ask for one of lessons learned you learned in the military that is translated over to business.
Yeah. Well, the military taught me that people come from all walks of life because I'm really very much a California guy. I was born in California, I was raised in California. Except for my military time, I really haven't left California very much. So, military was very useful to me in terms of opening my eyes to the many, many ways in which Providence distributes brilliance and beauty and creation and compassion among the peoples of the earth. And that really gave me a broad appreciation for, being from California, you already kind of have a diverse point of view, but the military really brings home that somebody's educational level really doesn't have anything to do with their value as a person. And what somebody knows and what they can do, these are very, very important ideas as opposed to, let's say, what they think or what they wear or what color they are, right? It's much more likely to survive the various experiences and to come out ahead if you focus on the things that really matter.
Ooh, I absolutely love that. It's easier said than done, focusing only on the things that matter because there's a lot of other noise and distractions in this game of entrepreneurship. But speaking of entrepreneurship, I just teased he's got a bunch of other portfolio brands in his repertoire, but one is Dope Dog, a brand offering CBD infused products for dogs. What was the motivation to launching this one?
That's a great question. No, I didn't launch it. I did invest in it. It was a modest investment early in my career at Evolution. And my real reason for investing in it was Aaron Mastopietro. And that's really the big lesson every single time when you're doing the earliest of early stage investing. And we're very often the first investor. We're very frequently the first institutional investor. We invest so early as to have a dizzying number of pivots after our investment. And so what really matters is the people that you're working with. That's the key. And Aaron Mastopietro is just an absolute rock star. Now, it did not hurt at all that my dogs really like Dope Dog and, that they're happy dogs on Dope Dog. It was a fun early investment to kind of understand how the machine worked and which levers you pull and which levers you push. And that was a fun one. You asked what else came out of the military as far as investing. And I'll say there was one more really, really big lesson. And it's not just for investing. And really for your entrepreneurs out there, I want to encourage you always to think of yourself as an investor. It's very easy to get confused. But as an entrepreneur, you're putting your time in, and there's nothing more precious than your time. You're investing the world's most precious asset. So you should always treat yourself with great courtesy and respect when you're investing anything, especially your time. And to that end, one of the big lessons that I learned in the Marine Corps is that it's really important to be able to sit overnight in a foxhole with somebody. It's very, very, very interesting to understand what you think about when it's dark, it's cold, it's wet, and you're watching out for somebody or they're watching out for you. Are you willing to go to sleep? Are you willing to take care of them? So I try very, very hard to limit my business dealings, whether as an entrepreneur, as an investor, people that I would spend the evening in a foxhole.
That's incredible advice, and I think it also prevents you from spreading yourself too thin and overload. That's just great advice there. But with that advice, you've still found a way to diversify yourself, not just limit yourself. Another notable investment for our guest of honor today is Aerometric. It's an aircraft maintenance app trusted by JetBlue, U.S. Air Force. What led you to this one?
That was Derek Waterman. So Derek Waterman is one of the world's geniuses, first of all. And I met Derek many, many years ago. And Derek is a particular kind of genius, and he understands how the insides of technology machines work, particularly business and marketing machines. And Derek and I had been friends for a number of years, and I had watched him be at the center of 2 or 3 exits where he was the engineering talent, but not the owner. And I said to him, when you're tired of making other people rich, let me know, please. And so one day he said, I got an idea, Al. And that idea worked out really well. We invested in that out of the family office. And, that's a story for another time. And then a little while later, Derek came back to me and said, hey, I've met this guy named Sean Bushkoff. And Sean is an absolute stone cold genius when it comes to jet engines like really big jet engines on passenger airplanes or military aircraft. Sean is the kind of guy who a hall full of engineers, when the meeting, like it comes to a close at 12 o'clock and it's time for lunch, they'll stay in the hall for another hour just to talk with him. He's one of those kind of guys, right? So Sean and Derek said, listen, we know how to use machine learning. There was artificial intelligence had not yet caught the public eye, right? It's really machine learning. We know how to use machine learning to predict when jet engines are going to fail. And as a result, we can reduce the downtime and unplanned outages for jet engines, for fleets of jet engines. They took this idea to the Air Force. They took it to the Navy, took it to, as you said, JetBlue, I believe. There are several other major airlines that use them. And, holy cow.
Amazing.
Yeah. Derek's a genius. Sean's a genius. These are just guys, it's really just investing in the people.
It seems like you've built an incredible network around you. If there's a newer or aspiring entrepreneur on the show today who has these big dreams, but their network is a little dry, they want to meet these players to do these things that you've accomplished, that you've inspired us to do, where is a good place to start seeking a mentor or seeking a high value connection like this?
Yeah, that's a smart question.
I try to be good for 1 or 2 of them per show.
Yeah, I think the most important advice I could give an entrepreneur is to get out from behind your desk. Get out from behind your desk. Put your phone down, look around, meet the people in the room that you're in, share the story that you're passionate about, and be shocked by how many people respond to it, because that's what's going to happen. And as people respond to your story and they feel the connection with you, they're naturally going to be inclined to introduce you to people in their circle. And there's an important rule of thumb, which is that investors don't invest in points, they invest in lines. So a meeting is a point. 2 meetings is 2 points, and you can draw a line between 2 points. If you get 4 meetings, 5 meetings, you have a conversation that doesn't have anything to do about money. You get an opportunity to share your vision and work on things together with other people. That growing sense of shared vision is what leads investors to make investments. So get out from behind your desk, attend local events, absolutely see what's going on in your community. One of the great things about the United States in particular is that almost every community has some group or several groups that are dedicated to the idea of entrepreneurship, networking, meeting each other. There's no substitute for shaking hands in my experience.
I could not agree more. I am a much bigger fan of in-person meetings, having that connection, hearing their name once or twice, and being able to build that relationship. One networking group that came to mind, I think I've done 3 times over the years, is 1 Million Cups. I know they have a chapter in, I don't know how many cities, but I know every state at least, and that's something where it's free. You go there, you share your story in like 6 minutes, and you have just people willingly and honestly offering their connection book or ideas, you name it. And I love using this example because I came from finance, where you want to be better than the person next to you, right? In entrepreneurship, it's idea, help, collaboration, this, that. Where in corporate, you want to one up everybody. So I love how we're able to get someone with incredible success, not just in business, but in military experience, come on the show today. We touched on ethical capitalism, some roles beyond the investors, just initial investment. We're talking about conversations not just on the money, seeing if you could spend a night in the foxhole like he said today. And before I get your contact info, may have another question for you, but I'd like to ask each guest this as much as I can. If you could choose to have a conversation here, Alex, with any entrepreneur, dead or alive, who you have not come across yet. Who's in your top picks?
Well, that's a really good question. I'm terrible when you put me on the spot like that. I've had the unbelievably good fortune to meet some of the household names today that are out there along the way, and every one of those conversations was worthwhile. Is there a particular entrepreneur? Well, he's not an entrepreneur, but he is somebody that I admire deeply, and he's gone now. But I wish I could go back and talk to Peter Drucker.
Let's talk about that.
I would love to be able to sit at Peter Drucker's knee and just share with him what I'm working on and have him tell me, nah, it's never going to work. You got to do this, you got to do that. I love to be around the great minds in the business. I've been really blessed to be in the room with a lot of great minds. And that's to me the ultimate high, really, just to be there and to learn, to be of service. It's long been my ambition to serve a cup of coffee to the people who are working on, marrying quantum mechanics to relativity, right? That's my idea of a good time. Let me make coffee, take out the garbage, clean off the whiteboard. Maybe I'll learn something while I'm there. And if I could go clean Peter Drucker's whiteboard, that'd be all right by me.
The choice doesn't surprise me due to your focus on ethics and morality, and the very little I do know from my readings, as those are two focal points for him. If we could delve deeper, and I'm going to have to put you on the spot one more time, where would you want this meeting to be? If you could pick a location too, place, state, country, you name it, where do you think the most value would come?
Well, if I could pick any place, it would be someplace warm with nice waves. I'm learning how to surf.
All right.
So me and my whole family, we're all learning right now. So if I could go
So
now, I'm
cool.
surfing in the Pacific and it's freezing. So I wouldn't someplace where it's warm and where the waves are really consistent and beautiful. And then me and Peter could go out and sit on the beach and, catch a few drinks and talk about ethics and capitalism. You're right. He's one of my great inspirations.
Well, I can't argue the serenity of the choice in a calming place where you're hopefully going to get 15 Post-it notes in your head filled out during this conversation, but that's absolutely incredible. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to connect with me. Come on the show all the way out in California and share your extensive experience to our aspiring current business owners and former guests tuning in today. Where can we find you online? Where can we say hello?
You can find me at evolutionacceleration.com. It's pretty easy to Google us. We're pretty easy to find. I do have one thing that I do like to close with for entrepreneurs, which is especially entrepreneurs who are looking for funding. It can really feel like you're panning for gold when you're looking for funding, right? And if you know anything about panning for gold, that's freezing, brutal, hard work, and you might only get a little bit of result. And it can be easy to get discouraged when you're panning for gold. And the one thing that I would love to give to every entrepreneur who hears this is the deep, deep understanding that you're actually the gold that all the rest of us are panning for. You are the only reason that any of this ecosystem exists. Without you, the entrepreneur, none of this matters. So take comfort in that and rest assured that you're the ones that we're actually looking for, not the other way around.
Oh my gosh. I didn't expect you to close that on anything but as superior as the advice you gave throughout the show. You absolutely gave so much, and I appreciate that. You brought your background here and gave it to us. How you got there, some great advice you offered, some incredible lessons learned. Everyone be sure to hop on the website, connect with him there, check out all the great work he's up to. This is That Entrepreneur Show. We are on all podcast platforms, and please give us a rating, leave a comment for our guests, let him know how well he did. My name is Vincent A. Lancey. You can find me on Google, on all my social media platforms, and my website, vincentalancy.com. Big shout out to our show partners. To end the show, we have johnford.com. He has an empathy app and new card set released, along with Coming Alive Podcast Production. Head to comingalivepodcastproduction.com to kickstart your podcast journey today. But with that, we're signing off today, coast to coast, both a little colder than we prefer from where we are, but can't complain because there's no snow. Thanks so much, Alex.
Thanks very much, Vincent. It's an honor. Have a great 2025.
You too.